is basically something I did to culminate with the 20th anniversary of Columbine. Now, this isn't anything like terrible or anything. I'm just stating this. It is the Reddit post I posted was called 20 Things I Learned About the Season 4 Shooting Timeline. Now, it was posted 24 days ago. This is May 16th, 2019, by the way. So 3 days. So I think it was on a Monday. Oh, no, it was on a Sunday, I think I posted it. And I said, in a somber moment to do with the 25th anniversary of Columbine and the fact that season 4 of Next Generation had the storyline that mirrored parts of this real life tragedy, I talked about 20 things I learned about the storyline through Reddit. Basically what Reddit taught me. And all that. I will go through all the points and give a little bit of a factor for what I'm saying, okay? First of all was Rick was not expelled for his actions to do with Terry, but pulled out of school by his parents, fearful of retribution. Now, this is what I learned. I was always under the impression that Rick somehow got expelled, and basically, I knew there was a scene of his mom and him picking up his stuff and leaving Degrassi, but I didn't know that Rick's parents basically knew about it, and basically they were trying to, no, they know that Rick was going to get in trouble, and that someone's going to find him and, get away from him. Especially Spinner and Paige. Second part was Rick was not instantly back in season 4 with a few episodes being aired before his return. I wasn't sure how season 4 went in the Degrassi universe. So what happened is that they did a 2-parter, which basically dealt with Paige's rape case against Dean being thrown out because of lack of evidence, and also mostly because Paige had waited too much time to actually say something about the rape and all that. My feeling is that if Paige was upfront with the rape accusations, even to Miss Sauvé, who would have had it under confidentiality, I think she probably would have got some justice. And then, of course, the other episode was when Markle and Alex were running for school president. Alex was hoping to win because she was a nonconformist, and also she had the ace on her sleeve that she would out Markle as being gay. Markle does come out to his mom, but not his dad, because his dad basically is under some strict Italian code or something like that. Most cultures have a strict code against liking anyone who is homosexual and all that. I think Markle's dad actually accepted him being gay, but I don't know when. And also in that episode was when Emma basically broke up with Chris. Well, we don't know who broke up with who, and Emma basically was trying to prevent Chris and Liberty going out because she was afraid of what people would think of her. And unfortunately for Emma, she got the scorn of Liberty and Manny, and is persona non grata. Point number 3 was a lack of criminal charge against Rick was why Rick came back with no strings attached, and I always questioned why no small charge was laid to him. It was kind of confusing how the heck that Rick didn't have any charge against him, even a minor assault thing. I mean, Terry's dad should have basically said something to that effect, and maybe Rick with a criminal charge would not be allowed back at Degrassi. I think the administration kind of got it correct that with no criminal charge, Rick was free to go wherever he wanted. But I think if Rick had actually had a criminal charge, I think Raj would have probably thought twice. Or he could have let Rick come back to Degrassi, but there would have been strict provisions written in. Basically, Rick would have to go to in-school detention or suspension or something like that. I don't know. Some people have said that when I did my thing about Rick. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, I mean, the students were kind of correct in the fact that they were thinking that Rick should never come back because of his way of assaulting women. But Raj said that everyone deserves a second chance and all that. That would bite him back in the butt. Number 4 was the students should have been ashamed of themselves for their overreaction to Emma's cause for domestic violence, the Orange Ribbon campaign, by making open war on Rick and never forgetting anything, even though Rick was trying to make things right. So yeah, the students basically are one of the culprits in this storyline. I mean, you got culprits such as Emma, her cause. She thought she could get rid of Rick, but it actually made Rick stronger and made the students wage war on them. You could, of course, blame Spinner and Jay for basically putting the bug in Rick's ear about things and Rick shooting up the school and all that. You could also blame Raj for being unattentive and all that. And basically, him leaving Rick to his own devices was a downfall that Raj couldn't bounce back from. And of course, you definitely blame Rick because Rick retaliated and all that. I've made a few videos based on Rick's stupidity and all that. I mean, the students had a point. I mean, Rick getting back to Degrassi made them angry, especially after hurting a beloved person like Terry. But the problem with this mostly is that the students reached open war, and even though Rick may have got a message, they kept pushing and pushing and pushing. They didn't want him at the school, and they knew that the staff wasn't going to listen to them, so they basically put matters in their own hands. And I'm actually shocked at how, like, there was no, like, severe consequences for the students. I would have probably forced the students into a anti-bullying camp as assembly and course and all that. I think I put that in one of my other videos, but I think if they had basically been forced to endure something like an anti-bullying thing, then they would have learned their lesson. Number 5 was Rick never changed his obsession with girls despite him trying to convince people otherwise. Rick was trying his best to fit in, but unfortunately, signs that he was getting better were not there, especially after Emma protected him from the bully, from the beating outside the dot. I mean, Emma was trying to do the right thing and realized that her cause was being too much. It's also worth noting that possibly Emma was trying to save her own butt, because if her domestic violence caused Rick out, Emma could have been in deep trouble, even though Emma was trying to silently take him out of the school with Paige. Unfortunately for Emma, that does screw things up with Paige and her clique, because she gets booted from that clique, and Emma's all by herself, with Rick leering at her. And of course, Rick's obsession never subsided, because on the day of Whack Your Brain, he whispered something disgusting to Emma, saying, "This is all for you," and basically kissing her and all that. He wanted to go after Emma, and it was said that the kissing contest with Toby was basically a way for him to get all the adage needed to get Emma on his side. Point 6 is Rick has no one to blame but himself for why Spinner and Jay needed to ratchet things up in Time Stand Still Part 1. He basically got mad and spray painted X's on their cars and made the Wakanda Forever signal to the bullies, that being Spinner, Jay, and Alex, who basically were the only 3 people who were willing to destroy Rick by violence. Other people were disgusted by Rick being at the school, but anyway. So anyway, yeah, Rick didn't really retaliate against the bullies, and then when he retaliated, it was kind of awful and all that, and that got Spinner and Jay so pissed off they needed to ratchet things up. And it didn't help matters that Sean basically told the 2 of them not to go to Radich, because Radich would probably have asked, why did Rick spray paint your cars? But of course, Sean had no clue that Raj was basically not willing to give Rick the time of day. So anyway, that was huge. Point number 7 is Rick was stupid to believe the crap that Spinner and Jay fed him before the Whack Your Brain tiebreaker, which made him oblivious to the paint prank. It's obvious. Rick saved the team from losing. Well, I think the bonus round would have happened no matter what. They called it a tiebreaker. But Spinner and Jay talked to him in the bathroom saying that you saved the school with your smarts and that everything was cool. And then, of course, out of earshot, they say the prank goes on. And Spinner, of course, saying that would Alex do her part? And Jay says, that's what you get by dating the school vice president. No one asks questions. So anyway, of course, Rick didn't see the paint prank coming. I think he would have had the paint put it on him, win or lose, no matter what happened. But anyway, Rick loses his mind after that and all that. And it's hard to believe that Rick never suspected Spinner or Jay as having something to do with this paint and feathers thing. Because if he knew that, then basically the story would have been different. Maybe Jimmy doesn't get shot. Maybe Emma might not have gotten the gun in her face. Maybe he would have felt vindicated by shooting Jay and Spinner. Killing them, or just to make them suffer. I don't know. Point number 8 is Rick never explained himself clearly to Radich or his parents, as that would have saved him from further bullying. Now, here's the thing. Rick was trying to explain to Raj everything. I didn't catch on until Not a Vampire put her videos out that basically Rick was saying stuff to Raj in his own personal way and he didn't get the key words out. Rick basically said that Jimmy was bothering him, although he could have said Jimmy was bullying him, and then that would have gotten Jimmy maybe in trouble and Jimmy had to explain himself to Raj. But Raj says, I'm sick of your pettiness. I can't force you to make friends. You gotta do a better job. Do it yourself, Richard. And Rick's relationship with his mom was kind of awkward. I know that a lot of people agree with me and disagree with me, but that's okay. IMO, it wasn't good. I mean, his dad was a traveling salesman, yeah, and his mom was the glue that stuck to the family. I mean, but Rick could have just told his mom. His mom believed him too much. Rick was very convincing to force her to say, to put him back in Degrassi. He could have went to like Lakehurst. He could have bided his time though too. That's what I said in 5 Things Rick Should Have Done. Is that basically Rick should have just explained himself clearly to Raj, because I think Raj would definitely put the kibosh on things. Or his mom too. Point 9 is Rick had no support system to calm him down after the prank when he went home, because his parents both were working, and the gun was in open sight that Rick knew definitely where the gun was and had to pick his dad's desk. It was a complete lack of foresight. I mean, they didn't think that he was going to go bananas and then shoot somebody or attempt to shoot people. But I mean, his support system let him down. Like, he came home after being painted and feathered, and he could have got changed, taken a shower, just slide, and then maybe he would have thought to destroy the school. But I mean, no support system to calm him down. And I don't think anyone else would have helped him out. I mean, Emma was a support system, but unfortunately he kissed her and Emma went off the rails. And of course, as I said, I did the post before that was that Spitter should have been more discreet by not revealing his hand to Jimmy about the paint and feathers prank, because Jimmy might not have been shot. That's what I explained in the beginning. The Joey House subplot, point 11, was a decent plot. Like, I basically learned about that. But unfortunately, it was at the time of the shooting, and it didn't get the credence it deserved. And point 12 is that Rick was completely stupid to believe Spinner and Jay's BS about Jimmy to save their own hides. As I said, Spinner and Jay basically pinned things on Jimmy to try to prevent those two of being accused of the paint and feathers prank. And then, of course, as we all know, Rick shot Jimmy, Rick nearly shot Emma, but Sean saved Emma. Well, speaking of Sean, number 13 is Sean's role in the shooting is bigger than I had anticipated. He saved the school massacre. He was fine, but then he went to Wasaga because he had a life-altering event about a jet ski and nearly drowned, and he was upset. I still think to this day that Sean was spooked that maybe the police might have had to ask him questions. But I think the police may have got the information from Sean anyway. But I think, Sean was worried about being labeled as a killer or something like that, even though it was accidental. And Rick had the gun first, so it was in self-defense. And he was saving Emma. But anyway, Sean leaving for Wasaga. I mean, the worst part is that Sean came back in season 6. But I think they were probably trying to get rid of the Emma storyline because Peter and Emma's relationship was kind of strange and all that. I didn't like that, and I still don't. Point 14 is Rick's mom being oblivious to everything after the shooting, even though her and her husband would have had to answer for why Rick had a gun for vengeance. Now, here's the thing. Rick's mom had no clue what was going on and all that. Obviously, the police would probably have to tell her what the heck was going on and all that. If Rick was on trial, like the fanfic I wanted to have done and nobody wanted to do it for me, then basically Rick would have had to explain himself, everything going on, and tell the truth, especially to his mom, especially because she didn't know much about why the heck would someone want to shoot her son. I mean, why would her son have a shotgun or something like that? I mean, it's probably the thing is that she probably had to leave town with her husband because, Everyone was judging her why she would have a school shooter as a son and all of that. Basically, at the funeral, or visitation as I call it, basically she was still like clueless. But I think the police probably told her everything. The biggest positive aftermaths for staff and students. Well, the staff was Snake. In my mind, he had the biggest. Because this incident actually helped Snake out. Because Snake learned from this incident how not to approach a student that's bullied, and basically had an anti-bullying agenda as an educator. True that maybe he's gone off the rails a couple of times, but Snake knew that too. And Snake did take responsibility for not being completely 100% with Rick and all that on his problems, with his problems. I mean, yeah, Snake blamed himself, that's true. But of course, the other staff members were to blame too, especially if Snake was trying to get Raj to clue into things. And Raj refused to give in. And Spitter had the biggest positive for a student. Kind of the strange thing is that why is Spitter? Well, simple. Basically, Spitter was chewed out. Well, Spitter, of course, hesitated to tell people about his role in the shooting, but that wasn't his fault. That was, you know, whose fault. I will explain that in point number 20. But anyway, Spitter basically kept everything to himself, tried to get Jimmy happy, and then when he realized how bad Jimmy was and that Jimmy deserved to know the truth, Spinner decided to tell the truth to Jimmy about him and Jay's involvement and all that. And of course, Spinner confesses to Hatzalackles about the paint and feathers and pins Jay for it, as well as him, but not Alex. He gets expelled. Spinner basically wants to burn the school down for not letting him come back in, and Jay, for some reason, decides to save him. But Spinner takes the summer courses, and basically Spinner comes back to Degrassi, and he tries to make amends with everyone. It wasn't that easy, but he got everyone, especially Jimmy, a year after the shooting, thanks to Darcy. Not a Vampire was basically my savior. I hope it's not blasphemous, but anyway, with how I dealt with the Degrassi timeline shooting, with her videos and all that. But the one thing that she did was that basically she talked about aftermaths with students, with people like Craig, Ellie, and Jimmy that I never even figured. I didn't think that Craig and Ellie had much of an aftermath after the shooting and all that. But Craig did. His bipolar thing came through. Ellie, of course, lost Sean because Sean went back to Wasaga Beach and Ellie was alone all the time. And Jimmy, I didn't completely figure out how his aftermath was. And all that. He did come back till like season 7, and I think he left after season 7. They probably fired him, but we didn't know what Jimmy was going to be Drake. We didn't know that. So anyway, yeah, Not a Vampire basically was the one person who actually got me to rethink my way of thinking a lot. Also, well, the biggest post-shooting aftermath for someone who was still around, aftermath not like positive aftermath, is Emma, because in season 4, her character kind of got reset. Because Emma, in the first few seasons, was kind of hated because she was perceived to have a bigger vision of things. Basically, had a holier-than-thou philosophy, according to Alex in season 3. And basically, Emma stuck to her morals and all that. I mean, a lot of people said that she was too moralistic. But I mean, at the time, in 2004, you would blame Emma saying that Emma wants to be in control of her relationships. Usually you don't hear about that, but 15 years later, it's more common than you think. It was just the time of everything. So anyway, the thing with Emma is that basically she had to deal with an issue and she couldn't solve it right away because she usually bounces back from issue to issue. I mean, yeah, she thinks she's smarter than everyone else. And part of me thinks that basically because she wasn't aborted by Spike, that she had the right to tell people what to do and all that. I mean, her morals could also be, like, basically based on her mom and all that. I'll talk more about Emma later in another part of this video. But anyway, as I said, Emma had the biggest push-shooting aftermath because her character changed. She now had to deal with an issue, and she couldn't figure out how to fix it, even though the smart thing would have been to talk to people about it. And also the fact that Emma basically at that time was basically shunned by everybody. except for Toby, for some reason. Basically, Emma couldn't handle it. She could have just basically spouted out everything, but she was afraid of her personality being like someone who couldn't handle tragedy. And that's true. Emma's personality kind of made a massive change. Even though in season 5, I wish that she was still the girl who had high morals, because she would never have been with Peter. After all, Peter did destroy Manny. All that. So yeah. Point number 19 is basically Raj, and because he had the biggest impact of someone who wasn't around after the shooting timeline. Basically, well, I mean Rick, but and Sean had impacts too, but Raj basically after a few episodes basically was out the door. Now, my opinion on Raj before 2016, when I wanted to delve into this more in depth, was that he was basically ignoring Rick, and he let the shooting happen, and I wanted to punch his fucking head off. But that was then, this is now. I mean, yeah, I'm more sympathetic towards his character. I mean, he did have to deal with the fact that possibly he screwed up. And I made 2 full-length videos on his character, so I won't get into too much detail. But the fact of the matter is that Radish basically fouled up, and he paid the price. I mean, you can sympathize with him a bit. I mean, the point is that he was trying to help the school, and it didn't work. And I mean, yeah, he was upset that the students and the staff took their frustrations on him, but he did take his frustrations out on Liberty and JT. And the drama club, perhaps, because the drama club refused to sing that song about him, fearing expulsion. It would have been much better if he had figured out what happened, found the culprits after the shooting happened, about the paint and feathers and what led to the shooting, because I think Spinner would have confessed everything and all that. So yeah, and I'm guessing that someone said that basically the police investigated and would have to interview some people, and that Raj would have to tell the truth, the whole truth, or else face lawsuits / criminal charges. And point 20 is that Jay is still hated by me because of his lack of empathy about the shooting. Basically, what Jay did was despicable in the fact that he basically told Alex and Spinner to shut up about their roles in the shooting. I mean, in the paint and feathers thing. All of that. Even though Spinner wanted to do the right thing. He basically bullied them because Spinner and Alex never said anything about the shooting and all that. Of course, Spinner did confess to Jimmy after Jimmy came back from the hospital. Him and Jay. He never mentions Alex by name. Now that it's Jay, I believe. I know Alex beats herself up over this. But anyway, it could have been worse. She could have been basically outed as a bad person. But Jay's lack of empathy was also evident in like season 5 or 6, because Jay had the right to come back to Degrassi, but he basically said that, you know, Degrassi made me and Spinner scapegoats for the shooting and all that. But I believe the school board would have told whoever was in charge, Slackles or Radish, basically that the paint and feathers thing, the super bullying and all that, is zero tolerance, no matter what you think. It's not because of the shooting and all that. The shooting was just coincidental. It was just a coincidence about the shooting. And I don't think they were going to pin the shooting on them. It was just a paint and feathers thing. And maybe Jay had a point, because Haslakos did say to Spinner that one boy's in a coffin and one's in a hospital because of your stupid prank and all that. Although, I mean, how did they know that Rick had a gun and all that? But anyway, Jay never comes back to Degrassi. Jay basically gets shunned by Spinner, who wanted to cut the dead weight off because he knew that if he was with Jay, bad things would happen and all that. I still hate Jay to this day. I mean, he did make a little bit of a comeback in season 7, being with Manny and then smartening up a bit. But I think he had to face the consequences. And I'm glad he did. So anyway, that's that part of the video. And part 3 is basically, the main question is, did Emma's issues in, I forget the episode. I would say Back to Black, but that's wrong. I don't know what the 3rd episode was when Emma had that pettiness over Kristen. Did that completely cost her dearly in the shooting timeline? Well, depending on your point of view, yes and no. But I say yes. Here's how it happened. Emma basically had a breakup with Chris. Chris was going after Liberty. Emma was upset because she thought that, with Chris being a Liberty, she would be the one who would get the bunt, saying that why the heck did she break with Chris? All that. She was thinking about herself a little bit, just selfishly. She was being selfish. And unfortunately, Liberty and Manny refused to have anything to do with her because of her stupid plans. And Emma was all by herself, and she easily got conned into Paige's clique to destroy Rick the next episode in Mercy Street. Emma basically is told not to have sympathy towards Rick and not to do anything stupid. And they know that Emma would help destroy Rick, all of that. So Emma does tell Paige that we need to get him out silently so we don't break the law. And they do the Orange Ribbon campaign. But of course Emma had no foreshadowing that, it would make Rick's bullying be worse. People bullying Rick worse. And of course Rick wanted to give his money to Emma for domestic violence. And Emma would have freed the cause. And Alex says that you two don't know anything about it. Because, Alex's mom basically was being abused and all that. They both didn't know about domestic violence. And I think Alex was trying to make Emma into trouble. But anyway, Emma saves Rick from a massive bullying and maybe a bloody beating. And of course, she loses Paige's clique. So basically, Emma's all by herself. She has an admirer, a sick admirer, aka Rick, with her. And the only solace she has for friends is the Quiz Bowl team of her, Toby, Rick, and Heather St. Clair, who then got replaced by Jimmy because Heather hit mono. Oh. And of course, Emma, was at the mercy of Rick. She did tell Rick to get off. And that unfortunately made Rick want to kill her because he wanted to kiss Emma. He kissed Emma, and then basically Emma led him along in his mind, not the fact that Emma was trying to save him. So Rick decides to point the gun at Emma, and Emma nearly dies, thanks to Sean. And of course, Emma was wanting to go with Sean. It was pretty obvious that Emma wanted to be with Sean because Sean saved her from a shooting, and she was very grateful to him, despite the fact that Ellie was with Sean at the time. I don't know if Emma knew that or not. But regardless of what happened, Emma basically had issues with friends and all that. She did get Liberty and Manny back eventually, but, they could have helped her out with problems. I think if Emma was smart to keep Liberty and Manny along, I wasn't too petty with what happened with Chris, I think she would have been fine. But there's also the fact that if Emma had a boyfriend in that storyline, would Rick have gone after her? It's actually unsure. Rick could have gone after her, or Rick basically could have just tried to destroy Emma's relationship with that boy and basically all that. But if Emma had a boyfriend, would she have done the same thing, protecting Rick or all that? It's hard to say. My theory is that with a boyfriend who would be played by me, like in my fanfic, I would be a protector of Emma and all that. Things would have been different. All that. You could kind of blame Emma for the fact that she didn't have a boyfriend or had a relationship around the time of Rick, and it bit her in the butt. And worse, Emma had no relationships with anybody until Peter, and we all know what that entailed. But anyway, I've been talking for a long time, so thanks for listening and thanks for understanding. So yeah, goodbye.